On Monday afternoon, Marion County filed a motion for a preliminary injunction asking the court to block the Army Corps' plan for a deep drawdown of Detroit Lake this fall. The Army Corps has violated federal law by adopting a new policy. We would like them to abandon the policy of annual deep drawdowns of Detroit Lake below the minimum conservation pool, even though they knew it won't help fish. Their failures will result in direct harms to critical infrastructure and water supplies, and drastically increase the risk of drinking water shortages and harms to fish. In 2023, a deep drawdown at nearby Green Peter Lake was a man-made disaster that killed thousands of kokanee salmon and caused massive increases in turbidity, or dirty water, that harmed city drinking systems. If you look at the picture behind me, you can see the immense scale of how bad the water got. In fact, state fish monitoring data in the years since shows an alarming trend. Wild salmon, the very fish that the deep drawdown was supposed to help, have actually declined in the percentage of fish returning to the South Santiam River fed by Green Peter. It didn't work before, and we're concerned it won't work this time. The county's motion argues that the Army Corps violated federal law in several ways, including the following. 1, the Army Corps unlawfully withheld the congressionally mandated turbidity report that was due before they made a decision. 2, the Army Corps never considered reasonable alternative options despite the legal requirement to do so. The only other alternative they say they considered was reverting to a 2019 policy baseline, but that was a phantom option because they couldn't legally adopt it. They never considered the most obvious alternative of simply continuing 2025 operations without a deep drawdown at Detroit. 3, the Army Corps never did the required hard look evaluation of how dumping a lot of water in the fall will mean that in a dry winter, like the federal government is currently forecasting, there will not be enough water to fully refill the lake. That in turn will create water shortages for downstream water users like cities and farmers, block spring fish migration, and leave the river with insufficient water to protect fish spawning downstream. 4, the Army Corps violated the Endangered Species Act by adopting a policy that will jeopardize endangered fish by causing turbidity and water shortages. 5, the Army Corps decision-making was arbitrary and capricious based on internally contradictory reasoning and information. The 40-page motion includes many other arguments as well. The Army Corps' new policy will cause irreparable damage to our community, so Marion County has asked the court to protect Detroit Lake by issuing a preliminary injunction that prohibits the Army Corps from starting a new policy of annual deep drawdowns at Detroit Lake until they have followed all federal laws. The Army Corps can and must do better. Marion County will continue fighting to protect Detroit Lake, the North Santiam River, and the habitat, clean water, and quality of life essential to our cities, schools, hospitals, businesses, farmers, fishermen, recreators, and all 230,000 county residents who depend on the North Santiam River for clean drinking water.
Thank you, Steve. Commissioners, do you have any questions, thoughts? I'm sure you do.
I don't have any questions. I think my only thoughts is I'm glad that we've arrived at this point to file the injunction. I'm grateful that the city of Salem has filed a lawsuit. I know that the courts have combined those lawsuits together, which just shows, I think, in this community, the collaboration between these government entities, but the greatest impact on the largest population in Marion County is not lost on local elected leaders. Frankly, on a council that is ideologically different than us, more often than not, when it comes to lots of, I think, factors. I hope the court takes heed to that. I also just want to say on the record that I appreciate the city of Kaiser, the city of Woodburn, the city of Stayton and Sublimity and Mill City, and
Silverton.
The city of Silverton. I haven't seen that one yet, but also the Board of Commissioners in Lynn County all standing up and saying this is a terrible idea and that we need to be heard and we need to be respected, and more importantly, we need to be protected. And the court needs to take that assertive action to protect Marion County residents against this egregious overreach of destruction of water and the numerous things that you listed in here.
Well said. Commissioner Cameron?
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture up there that we've been staring at while you were talking, and that when you first look at it, you think, okay, that's photoshopped or AI or whatever, but that's a drone photo. If you've never rafted like from I think it's Green Bridge, north of Jefferson, upriver, I guess it would be, east of Jefferson, and you come down to Jefferson, this is where the North Santiam and the South Santiam actually come together. And that picture shows how turbulent the turbidity in the water back in 2023 from that drawdown. And I think that's the key. The key is our water systems are even different than Sweet Home. They're even more sensitive because of the sand filtration system. There's a book up on my desk called Sweet Mountain Water that goes through the whole history of Salem's water supply that I've read and given copies to different people. And they describe in there those sand filtered systems and how sensitive they are and how expensive they are to maintain and replace. But you get pure good water out of that. I mean, Salem's water is great. And then we all know the drinking water, the day we couldn't drink our water, it was still flowing out of the taps, but you went to the store and you couldn't even get a bottle of water. I mean, the bottles of water were all gone. People were driving to Detroit to get bottled water out of the store up there.
This was in 2018 during the algae.
Was it 2018
Yeah.
the algae, the bloom?
Yeah.
So we had plenty of water, but it was contaminated. This is another situation where we might not have that water. And yes, Salem has done some things to help back up, but you go to Staten, they don't have a backup well. They don't have
3
a
days.
backup.
They got 3 days of water if the Santiam goes
if this
bad.
thing clogs, and they have a sand filtered system.
That's right.
And then the whole the hospital there, right?
Right.
The hospital would be potentially out of water. They're going to have to bring in water trucks, and we just know we heard about their well yesterday that they can't drill enough. The well would not be enough to keep them in place. And then the last thing I mean, obviously, drinking water supply is the number one issue that I'm concerned about for 230,000 citizens. But then it goes further than that, the turbidity issue. But they're planning on taking this lake down, and I've been on the lake when it was at 1425. I mean, I've got pictures of the old wagon train.
Standing on the dirt when the water's that low, seeing.
Yeah. I've been on that thing, and there's quicksand and all kinds of stuff being out there. I think that was 2019, and there's actually pictures in my house of that time, how low the lake was. And they're going to go down another from 1425 down to 1395, and the water, they need 750 cubic feet per second to even draw water for the city of Salem. And yes, their models, they always talk about their models, and we know how inaccurate their models are in today's world because of, whether you like it or not, warmer days and we don't have snowpack, etc. But their models show that they take it down to 1395 for that 2-week period, and then the rains come and it comes right back up to the conservation level of 1450. Well, that's great if it's a normal year, but if we have a drought in December and January, they won't have enough water flowing into the reservoir to actually feed water down. Whereas now at 1450, the winter conservation, if we have that type of a drought, they can lower that thing and still supply Salem with water. So there's some real risk to this whole drinking water issue. And I'm really concerned. Yes, we might go by the first year or whatever, I don't know, but this is not a one-time thing.
Well, I was just going to say, the point
This is
a successive year thing for multiple years post 2026.
Yeah, and then the other thing that gets me is that there's no science that shows that what's happened at Green Peter, that picture right there, has actually improved the fish returns.
At all.
There's no science. There is pictures of 1 million kokanee dying, and who knows how many other fish died in those pictures. They didn't count that. So it's just,
Well, and the
we're playing with
extensive
fire
wildlife.
here. We're playing with gasoline on fire here.
This
and
isn't
it's
just
not-
about fish.
Right.
It's also about all the animals that live on the land outside the water that don't have access to those fish anymore. And nobody wants to talk about them.
Well, and I just think, one of the things that we try to do here is we try to do the right thing. And there's always going to be a certain amount of risk to do the right thing, right? And what I see here is I see an agency that is so worried about a lawsuit from environmentalists that they're pursuing a policy that doesn't have any scientific basis,
They admit
that
it.
they know didn't help the salmon, that they know caused damage. And whenever you push them on it, they say, well, if we don't do this, we're going to be sued by the environmentalists. And I just think that's a terrible reason to do what you're doing. If you're in public service, your job is to do the right thing for your community. And if you have to go explain that to a judge, go explain to the judge. Stand up for yourself. Tell the judge why what you're doing is the right thing. And I just want to give a lot of credit to this body, to the Marion County Board of Commissioners, because we're leading this effort. And Commissioner Bethel, I agree with you. I'm grateful for all the different municipalities that have joined us, the city of Salem, the city of Kaiser, city of Staten, Lynn County. I'm so grateful for everybody. But I'm also grateful for my fellow commissioners here as well, that you guys are willing to lead this fight and stand up for our community, especially in the wake of the 2020 wildfires. For a community that was just devastated 6 years ago, is just finally getting back on its feet. We just have to stand up for our community.
Mr. Chair, I have this keychain in my hand. And Jan, I hope you don't have to make a new one. This one says COVID-19, wildfires, ice storm. We don't have the heat dome that came and destroyed berries and all that stuff. 2020 to 2021, I pray to God that we don't have to have a new one that says no water in Salem. That's what we're talking about here. And yeah, we have been through a lot in this county and in this community, and this is one more of those things that we're faced with that could easily be avoided, very easily be avoided. And we're going to hope that a good judge looks at it and says, yeah, let's stop this thing before we destroy the water supplies of all these people.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Steve. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Well, I just want to say thanks to you and your team. This was a big lift. I know it's taken time to make sure it's right, and I'm grateful that you took that time. And I think the public needs to start really paying attention, and they should lean in to represent themselves and have their voices heard, and not just wait for us to we all do it together.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great point. If you're watching this and you care about this issue, please write your congressperson, write your senator, write the Army Corps of Engineers, and tell them how important our water is, and tell them to stop this deep drawdown at Detroit Lake.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.